Hello, founders. Welcome to another pitch deck critique and review. And this time we have player three, or player to the third power. I'm just going to say player three. And it says where indie devs earn beyond game sales. And I like the purpose behind it. This statement actually pretty good, intriguing for me. This deck is trying to raise $625,000, and I'm guessing that it is pre-seed. There are lots of question marks inside this deck, and I thought this is a good one to really learn how we need to really narrow down some information to give investors confidence that you're de-risking the investment enough, especially because I really believe that this is in the idea stage and as pre-seed. So you're going to be selling the investor on the idea and the excitement behind the idea with the traction that you've got. We need to talk about how to make this deck really pop. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang, seven-time funded founder with 2 exits and the Chief Strategy Officer for Startups.com. If you are a founder out there and you want your own pitch deck critiqued and reviewed, stay till the end of the video. I'm going to give you extensive instructions to make sure that you understand how that happens. If we've met before, you can skip all the introduction and you go right into the video. I put a timestamp in to make your life that much easier. You are welcome. If we have not met before, like I said, I'm a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits. I've raised over $100 million for my startups, other startups, as well as startup funds. I'm an angel investor. We send out hundreds of emails every day to investors on behalf of founders at Startups.com, trying to help them raise money. I work with a team that has raised over $750 million for startups, and these startups have gone on to raise billions more. Some of them went public. So we know what we're talking about. If you have not checked out Startups.com, feel free to do so. We got a lot of free resources there to help you out. While you're here, like, comment, subscribe. And if you're already part of Startups.com, thank you so much. Appreciate your support. Let me know what you think about these types of videos, what you want to see. Your feedback's always helpful. With that being said, let's jump into the review. Player 3, like I said, I like it where indie devs earn beyond game sales. It's compelling. I like it, especially because I'm a gamer myself, certain types of games, and I know what's happening in the industry. So I've got some industry knowledge and experience. We've got developers are losing jobs due to industry shifts. Gaming platforms offer limited ways to earn, and creative platforms aren't designed for gaming, leading to fragmentation and lost income. So 10% of game developers lost their job in 2024 due to restructuring. 5K earned less than 74% of Steam games, and zero gaming first platforms that provide alternatives to earn. There's so much going on. I understand what you're trying to do, and I understand the intent. So first off, you need to make sure that it seems like a problem. When you say 10% of game developers have lost their money due to restructuring, to me, that doesn't seem like a problem. 10% seems like a drop in the bucket. And I understand that things are going that way and gamers need a different type of income source, game developers. I understand what you're trying to get to. Here's how we want to try and fix this problem and make it a lot better. As I always say, you're going to see a theme. I want to know the size, scope, and severity of the problem, right? So you start off with users. So how many users, in other words, who has the problem and how many are there? So we got developers here. How many developers? And give me an exact number. Don't say 10% of developers lost their job. Say 100,000 developers or 200,000 developers have lost their jobs. And also say that there are X amount of game developers that are making less than $5,000 or losing money in their work because they're not getting revenue share. So tell me, developers, size, what the problem is, because the platforms aren't sharing enough revenue, and give me an understanding of how bad that problem is. Let me break this down one more time. A better way to do this is say 50,000 game developers lost their job this year because of restructuring, and over 200,000 game developers make less than $5,000 a year on their products because the platforms don't have fair revenue sharing and there's no other income streams. That's it. It's the same thing as going with creators. Creators with millions of fans can't make any money. They make less than whatever. They can't go full time because there aren't tools to help them monetize what they're doing. So now you're setting me up for the solution. You told me this is a big problem. There are tons of game developers out there that can't make money or making less than what they need in terms of the poverty line because there are no opportunities, there's no tools, there's no platforms. Now you're setting me up for the solution. You're going to solve that problem. And if I'm the investor, I go, I understand the problem. Sounds like it's big enough. I'm interested. Then you've got them and you can move on to the next slide. But this slide, you've got way too much going on. So you're going to have to narrow things down into that one key, stark summary headline sentence so that the investors fully understand without having to read all your sub bullets. They understand the problem and they agree that it's a big opportunity. Player 3 helps game developers build recurring income and community through web-based monetization tools. Actually, that's not bad. I'd actually explain this a little more. Web-based monetization, nobody knows what that means. So you can say through helping them monetize an audience or help them earn as they build something. Give me a little more information, right? Monetize a community so they build through memberships or through donations or different income streams, or set up alternative income streams where their members in their community can start contributing revenue. I'm okay with this as a start. The beginning is pretty good, but I need a part B. I need you to explain to me what actually is the main mechanism or the main ways that you are going to help them generate revenue. But pretty good in terms of a clear solution sentence. The indie game market is $5 billion and growing. That is the indie game market. That is not your market, right? This is top down. So we aim to capture 1.5% of the indie market. Well, what does that mean? So if you're saying that you're going to capture 217 billion spent on games, the global market, which I believe, that has to do with every game out there. That has to do with the new Assassin's Creed game. I know it's embattled out there. That has to do with, all the other games that are sold on Steam and all the games that my kids play. That's not your market. You want to be doing bottom up. So if you said if every single person, game developer, used your platform and they paid you money, how much money would you be making? That's what you have to figure out. All this stuff doesn't mean anything to me. It's all top down. That is not your market. I need to understand how many indie game creators are out there. So give me a number. Let's say there are 100,000, right? 100,000. And if they all use your platform, how much revenue times how much revenue would you generate from each one of them equals your TAM. That's all you're doing. And then where are you going to focus to grow into that market? That's where you want to go. Because if you're saying indie game market and then you say the global game market, again, not your market. You are conflating the markets, and that doesn't build trust with investors. They're going to believe that you don't understand how to analyze your market. We prioritize gaming and community. I don't need to see that. I don't really care because you're telling me that you prioritize. Great. That's a given. I'm taking that for granted. Now you've got all this stuff in here like AI enhanced discovery, curation, game, media sales. This looks like it's a how it works slide. I might be wrong because you might have another slide waiting to surprise me. But explain to me all the features. So you got your platform and then explain to me that we've got all these ways that it's going to work. That's great. And explain to me on how this benefits, why you're going to win, why this is better out there than the other ways. And that's what I'm thinking of right now. I'm thinking about competition and how game makers make money and monetize. You better bring me something different because there are competitors out there, especially your competitive analysis. I look forward to seeing it. Revenue share. All right. So this is business model. This is how we make money. So player 3 is free to join, taking a 10% cut of developer earnings and 99% platform fee on marketplace transactions. Great. Fantastic. I like it. 10% membership digital assets reduced for donations. I don't know what this means. You might as well take that out. 90% market transaction fee. That's great. So you got the headline and you got this and you got this. I don't know what that means unless you can make it make sense. Take that out. Direct outreach is our edge. So I'm going to say this is a go-to-market strategy, right? Go to market. And do me a favor, just put that up in small out here like this, right? Nice headline, direct outreach is our edge. Bit of a hyperbolic statement. That's fine. Say go-to-market strategy. This is the slide that I'm on. Let's pause here just for a moment. I know some people have critiqued me in the past and said, oh, you know what, Ed, you don't have to put go-to-market strategy or these little tiny tabs in terms of where we are. Why wouldn't you? It doesn't cost you anything. People say, oh, Ed, your slide should stand alone just by the headline. You should know where it is. And that's fine. But what if your headline doesn't? At least tell me where I am. It doesn't cost you anything to put that small and to the top left of your pitch deck. Just let me know. Help the investor out, shall we? So let's continue to follow that form because that's what investors are used to looking at. So now I've got 225 MVP early adoption, 2026 growth and retention, 2027 scaling monetization. All right. So you're not going to be able to predict that. This is like your roadmap. So I want to know what your go-to-market strategy is. Ideal profile, indie game developers. Okay. This is actually pretty good to include your ideal profile, channel, and then your focus, early monetization, blue sky, strategic partnerships, and all these things. Okay, so now you don't need any of this. What I do want is for you to expand. What is the edge? Why? What type of content? are you going to put up there? Why is that content going to be so effective? And this icon really bothers me, by the way. Putting a mail icon beside content marketing, that just doesn't work. Strategic partnerships, I understand. But even that, why? Strategic partnerships with whom? Why are they important? Why is this going to win? Why? Because you just promised me that you've got the edge, direct outreach. So why? Why are you claiming that this is your edge? Blow that out there and forget the whole roadmap, okay? I'm going to take for granted you got to grow and retain customers eventually. I'm going to take for granted you have to scale and monetize. I don't need to see that pitch deck. I need to see why. I need to see more information on all this stuff that you've got over here. The only platform built to monetize every part of a game project. Okay. So once again, I had this in my last review. This word only, that is a very tough statement to make because it puts you in a black and white situation where you could be wrong. Don't do that. Don't say we're the first, we're the only. Don't say that, all right? Say that our platform integrates every aspect of monetization in game development. Done, flat out. Because what happens if you're not the only platform to do that? I would argue that Patreon allows you to monetize every single part, allows you to give updates, allows you to sell the artwork, allows you to charge per post, digital assets, build the community, communicate with everyone. Now you see where I'm going on this because automatically, because I have some familiarity with this industry in the creator economy, as you're building in public and you're trying to monetize, well, there are lots of tools out there. I use Patreon myself. So when you say we're the only ones to do this, if I have a little bit of savvy as an investor, I go, no, you're not. That means you haven't looked at your competition. You're trying to either pull the rug out from under me or pull the wool over my eyes, choose whatever metaphor that you want to, or you, founder, you don't have the thoughtfulness to really look at your competition. So just be very clear in what you do and avoid these hyperbolic statements when it comes to your competitors. So now I'm just going to take for granted that we've got all this going on here. We got 10%, 9%, 5 to 12% pay. Okay, so you did mention Patreon. I didn't even see that, right? Ko-Fi, 0 to 5%. All right, so here's the other thing. So you got 30% publishing, 30% plus publishing fee, 0 to 30% pay whatever, right? So now you got all these zeros and you got numbers that are lower than 10%. So you better make sure that you justify why you got 10%. So you got the marketplace, recurring revenue options, built-in engagement features, gaming focus, AI enhanced curation. Actually, that's not bad, but like I said, you're going to have to really justify your 10%. And that's where investors, the optics are going to matter. They're going to look at this and say, wait a second, if I can pay 0% on itch.io, even though I might have to pay 30, if I can pay 0%, or I can go to Patreon and pay 5%, why am I going to pay you 10%? And you have to say, wow, we've got all these other platforms and things like that. Yes, you're going to have to explain that. Just get ready for the investor to blow apart your assumptions that way. The rise of indie creators. You got this whole thing here, and why? Why do we have this? You should have already said this, and you did already say this in your problem statement. So this slide is completely erroneous. You do not need to have this slide. Don't put it in. Take it up. Created by gamers for gamers. This is your team. All right. So I understand it's a little bit of a kitschy statement, but created by gamers. I'd rather see you say created by gamers with 20 years in the experience in indie games, right? We don't need to have these type of statements. I know you're trying to be clever. Be clear, not clever. Be concise, not clever. Kayla Smith, CEO, Vision and Operations, Favorite Games. All right. So again, I know you're trying to be clever with this, but we don't need to see this. I don't need to see this. Be professional. Put in just CEO. Nearly a decade of leadership experience in managing multi-million-dollar products. Great. That sounds great. Fantastic. Give me the social proof. List me out those projects and tell me what's going on. So give me some bullets. Give me some logos, right? That would be great if you got multi-million-dollar projects. Unless you don't, and you're just fudging it, which basically means you're embellishing, which the investor's going to say that you're lying. Don't put that in there. And when you say nearly a decade, just clearly put in, I've got 9 years of experience. Experience to drive vision, operations, execution, bring ideas market. Okay, that's a statement I'm going to take for granted, but I want to know proof. Give me the proof of all of this. Technical co-founder. I like the fact you got a technical co-founder, CTO, senior software engineering experience at S&P 500 companies. All right, if you got S&P 500 companies, where are the logos? Give me the logos and tell me what you've accomplished. Led engineering teams scale platforms through Series A. Great. Which startups? Give me more evidence in this. Don't hide it. This is going to be a very important slide for you because at such early stages that the investor needs to know, all right, is this a team that's going to help me win? Let's discuss this just for a moment. When an investor looks at your team, they want to know 3 things. They want to know, all right, what experience do you have with this problem? All right. When have you worked in this problem or solved this problem before in terms of your domain expertise? And do you have any other accolades? Okay, that's the third one that might contribute. Like you've already exited another startup, which we say here, already Series A, working with these other startups at a Series A level. That's great. And then you have to back it up with all that proof. Give me bullet points on that and make sure that you have this statement that we know how to work together and we know how to win and you're going to be fine. Very important at pre-seed stages that you show that you've got the team to pull this off. 20 devs joined before we wrote a single line of code. I like that. I like this statement, right? That shows traction. So get it up there. Just put traction up at the top right here. Sorry for my penmanship, right? Current status. So December, idea validation research, 20 plus early studio signups. That's great. All right, player 3 is built around having gamers. I like this. I like the fact that you've got testimonials. That's a great way to show traction. And then January, early concept feedback, MVP development, March launch. Great. What I'd like to see is other ways that you are developing the traction in terms of getting devs to sign up. So I'm looking for growth. But as far as initial traction is concerned, this is actually pretty good. You're leaning in the right direction. You're probably going to have to show more. But like I said, headed in the right direction. I can appreciate this slide. We're raising $625,000 to drive early adoption and refine the platform over the next 12 to 18 months. All right. This is not a true statement. You haven't even built the platform yet, at least from what I see. So your milestone should be to launch the platform. And yeah, do early adoption, continue to reach early sales or pre-sales, and launch the platform in the next 12 to 18 months. I understand that that's what you want to get at. Overall, I have a sweet spot. I have a soft heart for this type of startup. I get it. Creator economy, video game development. What I'm missing here is how you're differentiated. I don't see any differentiation. You haven't given me that secret sauce yet other than all the other platforms. And you're just making some big promises. Now, I appreciate that you've got developers. So take the pieces that developers say, I want to get into this, and walk me through. A developer signs up online, invites their entire social network, gives updates on the game. People can donate. People can buy digital assets. You mentioned all those forms of revenue. You haven't expanded it out. Therefore, I think you've got a really good handle on the problem, but I don't think you've idea validated enough the solution with making it different enough for investors to pay attention, because investors are going to be asking 3 questions. First question, why now? Second question, what's different? First question, you kind of answered, why now? We're looking for different monetization. And there's this rise of supporting indie developers and creators. Like there's that one poker card game that's out there right now. I forget what it's called. That was a smash hit and everybody's doing it viral, all those things. You want to glom on to that trend. So why now? Okay, I get it. But what's different? You're not telling me anything that's different. Just being very straightforward with you as an investor, putting that investment hat on. And then why you haven't given me enough evidence that you are saying our team is the one to do it. Now you're getting close by saying we got 20 developers, but I'm going to need to see a lot more traction, because if you're telling me that there are 100,000 developers out there or 200,000, 20 developers is a drop in the bucket, is a fraction of a percent. So get more traction going on. And I need to see that number saying we got 2,000 developers in our community and 500 developers that have said we're going to commit to Model 1 version 1 to be the beta tester for this or have already started. So get that going. Furthermore, I don't believe that you need $625,000 to set this up. I think you can do an MVP for literally bootstrap for peanuts to prove that you can get everybody on track. You can set up your social media accounts, and maybe you've already done this, but $625,000 for your state, I'm not seeing it right now. So I think that you've got an opportunity here to build on what you already have by understanding the problem and start expanding out the solution and how it's going to work and do the rest. Therefore, idea validation is the track that I would put you on. But as always, thank you so much for sending this deck in. I appreciate what you're trying to do. And like I said, as a creator, someone who works in this space, who loves video games, I support you all the way on this. Look forward to seeing what happens. If you're a founder out there, just like I said, and you're looking for your own pitch deck critique and review, please leave a comment and tell us what you're building. We're going to send you another comment to let you know what you're going to have to do, and we're just going to track you there. You got to jump through some hoops to make sure that we make every single pitch deck critique and review valuable for our audience. If we're always doing the same thing and I'm repeating, and quite often I have to do that because you're not learning anything from the other videos, then that's going to be an issue. So we want to make sure that you follow everything, and the pitch decks are getting better. Kudos to all of you out there. And just jump through a few hoops, take a few steps, and make sure that you get in the queue when you apply for your review. Like I said, if you're part of Startups.com, you don't have to wait. We're just going to get you your review right away. Make sure you check us out. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Appreciate all your support. Thanks for hanging out in this one. I'll see you in the next pitch deck critique and review.